April 3, 1977. A security guard at the Massachusetts State House in Boston finds a cardboard box in a stairwell. Inside, a 9-month-old baby boy, healthy, federal, wrapped in a clean blanket. The cardboard smells faintly of detergent and something else, motor oil maybe. A handwritten note tucked beside him. Please take care of him. No mother, no father, no explanation. 200 miles north in Franklin, New Hampshire, a house sits empty. 5 dogs howl in the yard, unfed. A coffee cup on the kitchen counter, still half full, a ring of dried coffee at the bottom. Upstairs, a crib with scattered toys. The morning light cuts through dusty windows. The father, Derek Riley, is gone. This isn't a story about a man who abandoned his son. It's about a man who saved him and paid the price. If you're new here, hit subscribe, drop a comment below. Where are you watching from, and what time is it where you are? Let's build this community together. Now, let's begin. Part 1. The Disappearance. Franklin, New Hampshire. April 1977. Franklin wasn't the kind of town where people disappeared. Population 6,800. Mill town. The Winnipesaukee River cut through the center, past the old textile factories that had been the backbone of the economy for a century. By the 1970s, those factories were closing one by one. Windows boarded up, paint peeling. The town held on, the way small towns do, but you could feel the slow drain. In summer, the river smelled like rust and old machinery. Derek Riley lived on Salisbury Road in a white clapboard house his parents owned. It needed work. The porch steps sagged under your weight, the shutters hung crooked, and the wood groaned when you walked across it. But it was home, for him and his son, just the two of them. Derek was 29 years old, tall, 6'5", and thin in that way that made him look younger than he was. Blonde hair, longer than was probably practical, and a scar on his right leg from a hunting accident years back. He'd tell you about it if you asked. A story involving bad weather, worse judgment, and a rifle that slipped. He'd been through 3 marriages. The first 2 had ended the way young marriages often do, too fast, too young, too many expectations. The third was different. Or it was supposed to be. Her name was Jennifer. They'd met in 1974. She was working at a diner in Concord, the kind of place with cracked vinyl booths and coffee that tasted burnt after 2 p.m. He'd just opened Nature Gardens, a health food store on Main Street in nearby Pennacook. It was the 70s. Everyone wanted organic, natural, back to the earth. Derek believed in it. Whole grains, herbal teas, no pesticides. He wasn't just selling products. He believed. Jennifer believed in him. They married in late 1974. Life looked good. The store was doing well. They had plans, a family, a future. Then April 1975 happened. Police raided Nature Gardens. Turns out, the back room wasn't just stocking wheat germ and alfalfa sprouts. There was marijuana, a lot of it, packaged, weighed, ready for distribution. Derek was arrested. The store was shut down. The trial took months. Derek maintained he wasn't the kingpin, just a middleman who got in over his head. Maybe that was true, maybe not. The judge didn't care much about nuance. Possession with intent to distribute. 1 year in county jail. Jennifer tried to hold on. She visited him in pre-trial detention, brought magazines, talked about starting fresh when he got out. But in October 1975, something changed. She stopped visiting, started missing calls. By the time Derek's trial wrapped up and he started serving his sentence in January 1976, Jennifer was pregnant. They'd conceived before his arrest, back when life still made sense. She gave birth alone in July 1976. Derek was 4 months into his sentence. He got the news through his lawyer. A boy, healthy, 7 pounds. She named him without Derek there. 2 weeks later, Jennifer made a decision. She couldn't do this. The shame, the stares at the grocery store, the way people whispered, her husband, a drug dealer, her baby, a drug dealer's son. She left the baby with Derek's parents, packed a bag, took a bus to California where her sister lived, filed for divorce by mail. Derek served 4 months of his 1-year sentence, got early release for good behavior, and came out in October 1976 to a world that had shifted under his feet. No wife, no business, no reputation, just a 3-month-old son. His parents handed the boy over with a look that said everything they didn't: disappointment, pity, love, but strained. Derek took his son, moved into the house on Salisbury Road, started over, or tried to. The last year, the Derek Riley who came out of jail in October 1976 wasn't the same man who went in. Something had shifted. In his cell, Derek had found a Bible, not his own, left behind by the previous occupant, spine cracked, pages dog-eared, someone's name scratched out on the inside cover. He'd never been religious, raised loosely Methodist, attended church on Christmas and Easter if his mother insisted, but in jail, with nothing but time and silence and the sound of footsteps echoing down hallways, he started reading. Started with Genesis, kept going. By the time he got to the New Testament, something was different. He couldn't explain it, didn't try to, just knew. After his release, Derek started attending services at Franklin Baptist Church, a small building on the edge of town with a gravel parking lot and a wooden cross on the roof. The paint on the door was chipped. The hymnals were old. The congregation was maybe 30 people on a good Sunday. Most of them were old. Most of them had known each other for decades. Derek stood out. Tall, young, long-haired, the ex-con with the baby. But Pastor William Henderson didn't blink. Henderson was in his late 40s, graying at the temples, with a soft voice and calloused hands from years of carpentry work before the ministry. He'd been a drinker once, bad enough that it nearly killed him. Found God in a hospital bed after a car accident he barely survived. Been sober 17 years. He understood second chances. Derek showed up every Sunday, sat in the back row with his son balanced on his knee. The baby would fuss sometimes, and Derek would take him outside, pace the parking lot until he settled, feeling the gravel crunch under his shoes. Then come back in. One Sunday after service, Henderson approached him. "You're Derek, right?" "Yes, sir." "Heard about what happened? With the store?" Derek's jaw tightened. "Yeah." "You planning to go back to that life?" "No, sir." Henderson nodded. "Good, because God's got better plans for you, if you let him." Derek looked at his son, asleep in his arms. "I want to be better, for him." "Then you will be." In November 1976, Derek was baptized in the church. Full immersion in a portable pool they set up in the fellowship hall. The water was cold. Derek went under thinking about drowning, came up thinking about air. It wasn't for show. It wasn't to impress the probation officer or clean up his image. It was real. He started keeping a journal. Small notebook, the kind you'd buy at a gas station, spiral-bound with a blue cover. He wrote in it at night after putting his son to bed. Prayers, thoughts, promises. One entry, dated December 12th, 1976. "I want to be the father my son deserves. I want to be the man God wants me to be. I don't know if I can do this, but I'm trying." The Shadow Derek got a job at Hayward Manufacturing, a small factory on the outskirts of town that made metal components for machinery. Night shift, midnight to 8 a.m. It wasn't glamorous. The pay was barely enough. The factory floor smelled like oil and hot metal. But it was honest work, and it fit his probation requirements. During the day, he took care of his son, fed him, changed him, played with him on the living room floor. The house smelled like old coffee and baby powder and something faintly sour from diapers in the trash. He had 5 dogs, mutts mostly, strays he'd picked up over the years. They were loud and messy and ate too much, but he loved them. Always made sure they were fed before he fed himself. Their barking filled the empty house. His parents helped sometimes, his sister too, but mostly it was just Derek, and he was managing. Until August 1976. Derek was still serving his sentence then, but he'd been approved for a work release program, a chance for low-risk offenders to work during the day and return to the facility at night. It was supposed to help with reintegration, prove you could function in society. One morning after his shift, Derek was walking to his car in the factory parking lot. Early morning, sun just starting to rise, dew still on the windshields. He noticed a car idling across the street. Black sedan, tinted windows, engine running. He thought nothing of it. 3 days later, same car, same spot, same time. A week after that, the car followed him back to the county jail, stayed a block back. When Derek pulled into the facility parking lot, the car slowed, then drove past. Derek mentioned it to his probation officer during his next check-in. "Someone's following me," he said. The officer, a middle-aged man named Ron Prescott with a coffee stain on his shirt, looked up from his paperwork. "Following you?" "Black sedan. I see it all the time." "After work, outside the facility." "You sure?" "Yeah, I'm sure." Prescott made a note. "You think it's related to your old business?" "I don't know. Maybe." "You been in contact with any of your former associates?" "No, I told you. I'm done with that." Prescott studied him. The air conditioning rattled in the corner. "Derek, you're under a lot of stress. Work release. New fatherhood waiting for you. It's normal to feel paranoid." "I'm not paranoid." "I'm not saying you are. I'm saying keep your head down. Stay out of trouble. If someone's actually following you, report it to the police, but don't assume the worst." Derek left the meeting frustrated. He did report it to the Franklin police after his release in October, filed a report in September, described the car, gave a license plate number, or what he thought was the number. Hard to see with the tint. Nothing came of it. The officer who took the report wrote in his notes, "Subject appears anxious. Possible paranoia. No evidence of actual surveillance." Derek tried to let it go, but after his release, the car showed up again, outside his house, following him to church, waiting at the factory. By February 1977, Derek was checking his rearview mirror constantly, locking the doors, closing the curtains at night, jumping at sounds. He told Pastor Henderson about it one Sunday after service. "I think someone's watching me," Derek said quietly. They stood in the parking lot. Cold wind cut through Derek's jacket. Henderson's expression didn't change. "Who?" "I don't know. People from before, maybe. People I used to work with." "Have they approached you?" "No, just watching." Henderson put a hand on Derek's shoulder. "You're scared." "Yeah." "Have you prayed about it?" "Every night." "Then trust that God is watching over you. If they come for you, you don't fight. You call the police. You call me. You don't handle this alone." Derek nodded. "Okay." But deep down, he wasn't sure prayer would be enough. The old friends. The men following Derek Riley had names: Marcus Webb and Tommy Castellano. Derek had known them back in the Nature Gardens days. They weren't friends, business associates, The kind of people you worked with but didn't invite to dinner. Marcus was older, mid-30s even back in '75. Stocky build, receding hairline, always wore a leather jacket regardless of weather. He was the supplier, brought in the product from somewhere up north, near the Canadian border. Had connections, never talked about them. Derek had met him through a mutual acquaintance, someone who said Marcus could help with supply issues. Tommy was the enforcer. Late 20s, thin and wiry, nervous energy that made him pace constantly. Made sure people paid on time, made sure no one asked too many questions. Derek had been afraid of Tommy from day one. Something in his eyes, something cold. When Derek was arrested in April 1975, he didn't give up any names, took the fall himself. He figured that was the end of it. Do his time, move on. They'd leave him alone if he stayed quiet. But Marcus and Tommy didn't see it that way. In 1976 and early 1977, police in New Hampshire started cracking down on drug distribution networks, raids across the state, arrests, pressure from the DEA. Several people Derek used to know were picked up. Some went to jail. Some cooperated with prosecutors in exchange for reduced sentences. Marcus and Tommy started to wonder, did Derek talk? He hadn't. Derek had given the police nothing, but they didn't believe that. They knew Derek had gotten a light sentence. 4 months actual time served. That seemed suspicious. People who didn't cooperate usually did more time. Marcus had done 2 years on a similar charge. They knew Derek was out, living quietly, working a straight job, going to church. That seemed suspicious, too. Why wasn't he trying to get back in the game? Why wasn't he reaching out to old contacts? And they knew Derek had a kid, a baby, a weak spot. So they started watching, making sure Derek wasn't meeting with police, wasn't testifying, wasn't causing problems. At first it was just surveillance, but as more arrests happened and the net closed tighter, Marcus and Tommy got nervous. Maybe watching wasn't enough. Maybe Derek needed to understand the cost of talking, or maybe Derek needed to disappear. They'd done it before. In 1974, a distributor in Manchester had threatened to go to the police. Marcus and Tommy paid him a visit. The man left town the next day. Never came back. Problem solved. Derek Riley would be the same. Scare him enough, make him understand the stakes, and he'd either run or shut up forever. Either option worked. April 2, 1977. It was a Saturday. The morning started ordinary. Derek had the day off. 1 of 2 days a week. He didn't work nights. He spent the morning with his son, took him for a walk down Salisbury Road, the baby bundled in a stroller, spring air still cold enough to see your breath. Fed him lunch, mashed carrots that ended up everywhere. Put him down for a nap. The dogs barked at a delivery truck that rumbled past. Normal. In the afternoon, Derek's sister stopped by. She lived in Concord, about 20 minutes away. Brought groceries, milk, bread, diapers. Played with the baby for a while, made him laugh by making faces. Asked Derek if he was okay. "You look tired," she said. "I'm fine." "You sure? You've got dark circles. Just work." She didn't push it, but she looked at him like she knew something was wrong. Sisters always knew. She left around 4 p.m. Derek watched her car pull away, felt a knot in his stomach he couldn't explain. Derek made dinner, pasta with jarred sauce. Simple. Fed his son in the high chair. The baby threw more food than he ate, sauce in his hair. Derek wiped the tray down, picked spaghetti off the floor, ran the bath. Bath time, pajamas, bottle, bed. By 8 p.m., the house was quiet except for the dogs shifting in the living room and the hum of the refrigerator. Derek sat on the couch with a cup of coffee. Turned on the TV, some sitcom rerun, laugh track too loud, but didn't really watch, just needed the noise. The house felt too big when it was quiet, too empty. At 9:30 p.m., there was a knock on the door. Derek's stomach dropped. Something about the knock, too hard, too insistent. He stood, walked to the window, looked through the curtain. Two men on the porch under the yellow porch light. He recognized them immediately. Marcus Webb, Tommy Castellano. Derek's hands started to shake. His heart hammered against his ribs. He opened the door part way. "What do you want?" Marcus smiled. Not friendly. Teeth showed, but eyes didn't. "Hey, Derek. Long time?" "I don't want any trouble." "Neither do we. We just want to talk." "About what?" "About old times. About mutual friends who've been getting visits from the cops lately." Derek shook his head. "I didn't say anything. I haven't talked to anyone." "That's what we want to believe," Tommy said. He shifted his weight, fingers tapping against his thigh. "Always moving." "But you see our problem, right? A lot of people are going down, and you're walking around free. Looks bad." "I didn't talk." "Then you won't mind coming outside, just for a few minutes. Clear the air." Derek glanced back toward the stairs. His son was asleep up there. He could hear one of the dogs snoring. "I can't. My kid's inside." "We'll be quick." Marcus's tone wasn't a request. Derek stepped outside, closed the door behind him. The night air was cold. He could smell wood smoke from someone's chimney down the street. Marcus leaned against the railing. It creaked under his weight. "So, you've been busy? New job? Church on Sundays?" "Playing the good father." "I'm trying to do better." "Better," Marcus repeated. "Funny word. Makes it sound like we're the ones who were bad." "That's not what I meant." Tommy stepped closer. Derek could smell cigarettes and beer on him. "We've been hearing things, Derek. Hearing you might have made a deal. Lighter sentence in exchange for names." "That's not true." "Then why'd you only do 4 months? Good behavior. That's it." "Bullshit." Tommy's face was inches away. "You think we're stupid?" Derek's pulse pounded in his ears. "I didn't give up anyone. You can believe me or not. But I'm done with that life. I'm not a threat to you." Marcus pushed off the railing. "Maybe, maybe not. But we need to be sure." "How?" "We need you to disappear for a while. Leave town. Stop drawing attention." Derek stared at him. "I'm on probation. I can't leave." "Figure it out." "I have a son." "Yeah." Tommy smiled. "Something ugly in it." "We know. We know where your sister lives, too. We know where your parents are." The threat hung in the air like smoke. Derek's mouth went dry. "Don't." "Don't what?" Tommy said. "We're just talking." "Leave my family alone." Marcus stepped forward. "Then give us a reason to trust you." Derek didn't see the first punch coming. It caught him in the ribs. He doubled over, gasping, pain radiating through his chest like fire. The second punch hit his jaw. His head snapped back. He tasted blood. He stumbled, hit the porch railing, splinters digging into his palms. Tommy grabbed him by the collar, fabric tight against his throat. "You think you're better than us now? Church boy? Family man?" Derek couldn't breathe. His vision blurred. "You owe us," Marcus said quietly, calm, like he was discussing the weather. "You owe us silence. You owe us loyalty. And if you can't give us that—" Tommy hit him again, this time in the stomach. Derek collapsed to his knees. The porch was rough under his hands. The dogs inside started barking, loud, frantic, throwing themselves against the door. Marcus looked toward the house. "Shut them up," Derek wheezed. "Please, don't hurt them." "Then do what we tell you." Tommy hauled Derek to his feet, shoved him toward the driveway. Derek's legs barely held him. "Get in the car." My son is asleep. He'll be fine. Let's go. They walked him to the black sedan parked down the street under a broken streetlight, opened the back door, pushed him inside. The car smelled like stale cigarettes and old fast food. Marcus got in the driver's seat, Tommy in the passenger side. They drove. Derek didn't know where they were going, didn't ask, just sat in the back seat, pain throbbing through his body, mind racing. Blood dripped from his lip onto his shirt. His son, alone in the house. The dogs barking. God, please, protect him. Please. They drove for maybe 20 minutes, out of town, rural roads, trees pressing close, no streetlights, no other cars, just darkness and the sound of the engine. Finally, Marcus pulled over. Side of the road, middle of nowhere. The headlights illuminated trees and nothing else. Tommy turned around in his seat. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave town. Tonight. You're going to tell your probation officer you had a family emergency. You're going to disappear for a few months. Let things cool down. Then maybe, you can come back. I can't do that, Derek said quietly. His voice sounded strange, distant. You can. You will. My son will be fine. Your sister can take him. Your parents. Whatever. Derek shook his head. No. Marcus laughed. Short. Harsh. You think you have a choice? I'm not leaving my son. Tommy leaned over the seat. Got close. Derek could see the veins in his eyes. Let me be clear, Derek. If you don't leave, if you go to the cops, if you make any noise, we know where your sister lives. We know where your parents are. Accidents happen. House fires. Car crashes. You understand? Derek's heart stopped. The world narrowed to Tommy's face in those words, accidents happen. You understand? Tommy said again. Derek nodded slowly. His throat was too tight to speak. Good. Tommy opened the car door. Cold air rushed in. Get out. Walk. Think about what we said. We'll be in touch. Derek climbed out of the car. His legs barely held him. He stood on the side of the empty road, alone, the night pressing in. The sedan drove off. Taillights disappeared into the dark. Derek stood there for a long time, blood drying on his face, pain in his ribs with every breath. He started walking. Not toward home, not yet. Toward a payphone he'd seen a mile back. Toward the only person he could trust. The choice. Derek walked along Route 3 in the dark. His ribs screamed with every step. His jaw throbbed, but he kept moving. He thought about his son, asleep in the crib. What if Marcus and Tommy went back? What if they decided to make their point more clearly? No, stop. They wouldn't. Not yet. They want me scared, not him dead. But would they really stop at threats? He didn't know. That was the problem. He didn't know what they were capable of. Or maybe he did, and that was worse. After 40 minutes of walking, he found the payphone outside a closed gas station, the neon sign dark. His fingers shook as he dropped quarters into the slot. Dialed. Pastor William Henderson answered on the fourth ring. Voice groggy. Hello? Pastor Henderson, it's Derek Riley. Derek? Henderson sounded more awake now. It's almost midnight. What's wrong? I need help. Where are you? I don't know. Side of Route 3. Maybe 5 miles from town. Near the old Mobil station. Are you hurt? Derek touched his jaw. Felt the swelling. Yeah. Stay there. I'm coming. Henderson arrived 23 minutes later in his old Buick, headlights cutting through the dark. Found Derek sitting on the curb outside the gas station, head in his hands. Henderson got out, took one look at him and said, Get in. They drove to Henderson's house in silence. Small ranch on the outskirts of Franklin. Henderson's wife was asleep. He led Derek into the living room, turned on a lamp. The light felt too bright. "Sit," Henderson said. Derek sat. The couch was soft. He almost couldn't feel it through the pain. Henderson disappeared into the bathroom, came back with a first aid kit, the red cross faded on the white plastic, started cleaning the blood off Derek's face with careful hands. "Who did this?" "Marcus Webb, Tommy Castellano, men I used to know." "What do they want?" "They think I talked to the police. They want me to leave town, disappear." Henderson pressed gauze against Derek's split lip. The sting made Derek wince. "Did you talk to the police?" "No." "So they're threatening you for nothing?" "They're threatening my family." Henderson stopped, looked at Derek. "Your son?" "Yeah, my sister, my parents. They said accidents happen." Henderson set down the gauze, folded his hands. "We're going to the police." "I can't." "Derek, if I go to the police, they'll kill someone. I know they will. They've done it before." "You don't know that." "I do." Derek's voice cracked. "There was a guy in Manchester, 1974, threatened to talk. Marcus and Tommy paid him a visit. He disappeared. Never came back. Everyone knew what happened, but nobody could prove it." Henderson was quiet for a long moment. The house creaked. Somewhere a clock ticked. Then, "Okay, let's pray." They prayed together. Derek's hands shook, his voice barely a whisper. Henderson's voice was steady. "God, we don't know what to do. We need your wisdom. We need your protection. Show us the way." When they finished, Henderson said, "Here's what we're going to do. You're going to stay here tonight, get some rest. In the morning, we'll go to the police together. I'll be with you. You won't be alone. We'll explain everything. They'll protect your family." "What about my son? He's alone in the house right now." "Call your sister. Have her pick him up first thing in the morning. Tell her to take him somewhere safe. Out of town. Don't tell her where. Just tell her to go." Derek nodded slowly. That made sense. Get his son away from Franklin, away from Marcus and Tommy. "Okay. But Derek, you can't run. If you run, you look guilty, and they'll never stop coming after you. We face this head on. With God's help. Agreed?" "Agreed." Derek called his sister from Henderson's phone. The rotary dial clicked as he spun it. She answered on the third ring, voice thick with sleep. "Hello? It's Derek. Derek, it's midnight. What's wrong?" "I need you to do something for me. Early tomorrow morning, pick up my son from the house, take him to Mom and Dad's. Actually, no, take him to your place. Don't tell anyone where you're going." "What? Why?" "Please, just trust me. It's important." "Derek, you're scaring me." "I know. I'm sorry. But I need you to do this. Early. Like 7 a.m. Can you do that?" "Okay. Yes. I'll be there at 7. Thank you." "Derek, what's going on?" "I'll explain later. I promise." He hung up, felt a small measure of relief. His son would be safe, away from the house, away from Marcus and Tommy. Henderson showed him to the couch, gave him a blanket and a pillow that smelled like lavender. "Try to sleep. We'll deal with this in the morning." "Thank you, Pastor." "That's what I'm here for." Henderson turned off the lamp, went to his bedroom. Derek lay down, stared at the ceiling. The couch springs creaked under him. Sleep didn't come. His mind raced. What if his sister was late? What if Marcus and Tommy went back to the house before she got there? What if they were watching the house right now? Stop. God is watching over him. Trust that. But trusting was hard when your ribs ached and your jaw throbbed, and you could still hear Tommy's voice. Accidents happen. Around 3 a.m., Derek couldn't take it anymore. He got up, walked to the window, looked out at the dark street. A cat crossed under a streetlight. Nothing else moved. God, I don't know what to do. I'm scared. I want to trust you, but I'm so scared. What if they hurt him? What if going to the police makes it worse? What if they make good on their threats before the police can stop them? He thought about his son, asleep in the crib, face peaceful, tiny hands curled into fists, 9 months old, didn't even know his father was gone, wouldn't remember any of this. Maybe that's better. Maybe if something happens to me, at least he won't remember. The thought made Derek's chest tight. No, not alone. His sister would be there soon. 7 a.m. 4 hours. But 4 hours was a long time. Anything could happen in 4 hours. Derek made a decision. He couldn't wait. Couldn't risk it. He grabbed Henderson's car keys from the kitchen counter where they sat next to a bowl of loose change, left a note on the table, pen trembling as he wrote, "I'm sorry. I have to protect him. I'll explain everything later. Thank you for everything. Derek." And he left. The night air hit him as he stepped outside. Cold, sharp. He got in Henderson's Buick, started the engine. The dashboard lights glowed green. He knew Henderson would be angry, confused, but Derek couldn't explain. Not now. He just had to make sure his son was safe. Then he could go to the police. Then everything would be okay. He drove toward Salisbury Road. The last goodbye. Derek drove back to his house. It was 3:30 a.m. The street was quiet, empty. No black sedan in sight. He checked twice, 3 times. Nothing. He parked Henderson's Buick in the driveway, got out. The porch light was still on. Moths circled it. He unlocked the door, went inside. The dogs rushed him immediately, confused, excited, tails wagging. They'd been alone for hours. He petted them quickly, felt their warm bodies press against his legs. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." He went upstairs. Each step creaked. His son was still asleep in the crib, the nightlight casting soft shadows. Face peaceful. Tiny hands curled into fists, breathing slow and steady. Derek stood there for a long moment, just watching him breathe, memorizing his face, the curve of his cheek, the way his eyelashes rested against his skin. I'm a terrible father. What kind of father brings danger to his child's door? What kind of father can't protect him? Then he picked him up gently, wrapped him in a blanket. The baby stirred, made a small sound, but didn't wake. Derek held him against his chest, felt the weight of him, the warmth. This might be the last time he held his son. The thought hit him like a punch. Marcus and Tommy wouldn't stop. Even if he went to the police, even if they were arrested, there were others. People higher up, people who wouldn't forget. Derek carried him downstairs. His ribs screamed with every step, but he held on tight. Grabbed a diaper bag from the kitchen, formula, a bottle, extra clothes, threw it all in without thinking. He put his son in the car seat in Henderson's Buick, buckled him in with shaking hands. The baby's head lolled to the side, still asleep. Derek got in the driver's seat, sat there for a moment, hands on the wheel. What am I doing? Where am I going? He didn't have a plan, just an instinct, a desperate, half-formed idea. If Marcus and Tommy wanted him gone, if they thought he was a threat, then he had to remove the most vulnerable piece from the board. His son. Get him somewhere they couldn't touch him, somewhere safe, somewhere official. Not his sister. They knew where she lived, not his parents. Same problem, somewhere public. Somewhere with cameras and security and people who would protect a child. Derek drove toward Boston. It was the only thing that made sense. 2 hours. The baby slept the whole way, oblivious. Derek drove in silence. No radio, just the sound of the engine and his own thoughts. Am I running away? Is this cowardice? No. This is protecting him. This is making sure he survives even if I don't. But what happens after? Will he think I abandoned him? Will he grow up believing his father didn't want him? The thoughts spiraled. Derek gripped the wheel tighter. His knuckles went white. God, is this the right thing? Am I doing what you want, or am I just scared? No answer came. Just the dark highway and the yellow lines disappearing under the car. When he reached Boston, the sun was just starting to rise. The sky pale gray, buildings dark against it. The Massachusetts State House loomed ahead, stone columns, golden dome catching the first light, symbol of power, of law, of protection. Derek parked on a side street, sat for a moment. His son was starting to wake up, eyes blinking, confused, not crying yet, but close. "It's okay," Derek whispered. "It's okay." He picked him up, held him close. The baby's weight felt heavier now, or maybe Derek felt weaker. He carried his son toward the State House, found a side entrance that was unlocked, early morning cleaning crew, maybe. Slipped inside. The hallway was empty, marble floors, high ceilings. The air smelled like floor wax and old stone. Derek found a quiet stairwell, set his son down gently in a cardboard box he'd grabbed from the trunk, something that had been there for months, left over from moving. Made sure the blanket was tucked around him, made sure he was warm. The baby looked up at him with wide eyes, not crying, just watching. "I love you," Derek said. His voice broke. "I love you so much. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." He pulled out a piece of paper and a pen from the diaper bag. Wrote with hands that wouldn't stop shaking, "Please take care of him." He placed the note beside the baby, kissed his son on the forehead. The baby's skin was soft, warm. Derek closed his eyes, tried to memorize the feeling. "God will watch over you," he whispered. "You'll be safe here. Someone will find you soon, someone good." "This is wrong. This is so wrong. What kind of father?" "Stop. He'll be safe. That's what matters. He'll grow up. He'll be okay." Derek stood up, took one step back, then another. His son started to fuss. Small sounds. Not crying yet, but close. Derek turned and walked away before he could change his mind. His legs felt like lead. Every step was agony, not from his injuries, from something deeper. He walked out of the State House, got back in the car, sat behind the wheel for a long time, couldn't see through the tears. His whole body shook. "What have I done? What have I done?" Then he drove, not home, not to Henderson's house, to Lake Winnipesaukee, the place where he used to fish with his father when he was a kid, before everything went wrong, before bad choices and worse consequences, when life was simple. Maybe if he went there, he could think clearly. Maybe God would show him what to do next. The end. Derek parked by the old dock at Lake Winnipesaukee. The sun was rising fully now, light spreading across the water, turning it gold. Beautiful, peaceful, like the world wasn't falling apart. He got out of the car, walked to the edge of the dock. The wood was old, weathered, some planks missing. Water lapped against the posts. The sound was gentle, familiar. He sat down, legs hanging over the edge. The cold air off the water made him shiver. God, what now? I did what I thought was right. I protected him. But I feel like I just made the worst mistake of my life. Did you want this? Or did I just panic? Show me, please. Show me what to do. He sat there for maybe an hour, watching the water, thinking, praying, crying. He thought about his son. Someone would have found him by now, called the police, child services. He'd be safe, fed, warm, protected. But he'll grow up thinking I didn't want him. Derek opened the car door, pulled out the Bible from the glove compartment, the one he'd brought from Henderson's house, the one he always kept with him. The pages were soft from reading. He turned to Psalm 23. Read it slowly. "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters." His voice cracked on the next verse. "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me." He closed the Bible, held it against his chest. "I'm in the valley right now, aren't I? The shadow of death. Marcus and Tommy, the threats, the fear. But I will fear no evil. I will—" A sound behind him. Car engine. Derek turned. A black sedan. Pulling into the parking area. His stomach dropped. Marcus and Tommy got out, walked toward him slowly, not rushing. They had all the time in the world. Derek stood up. His body moved on instinct even as his mind went blank. "Derek," Marcus said, almost friendly. "We thought you might come here. Tommy remembered you talking about this place once. Your dad used to bring you fishing, right?" Derek didn't answer. "Where's your kid?" Tommy asked. "House was empty. Dogs were barking, but no baby." "He's safe." "Where?" "Somewhere you can't touch him." Marcus and Tommy exchanged a look. "That's cute," Tommy said. "You think you're protecting him, but you just made this a lot worse." "We told you what to do," Marcus said. His voice was calm, patient, like explaining something to a child. "Leave town. Keep quiet. Instead, you run to your pastor, steal his car, take your kid somewhere. Now we have problems." Derek's heart pounded. "I didn't go to the police." "Not yet, but you will. We can see it in your face. You're going to crack." "I won't." "You will," Tommy interrupted. "And we can't have that." Derek looked at the water, looked at the dock, looked at Marcus and Tommy. This was it. The moment he'd been running toward since they knocked on his door. "God, if you're there, if you're listening, protect my son. Let him grow up safe. Let him know I loved him." Derek didn't fight when they grabbed him, didn't struggle when they pulled him toward the car. His last words, barely a whisper. "God forgive you, and forgive me." The discovery, April 3rd, 1977, 6:45 a.m. A security guard at the Massachusetts State House made his rounds, keys jangling on his belt. Heard crying in a stairwell. Loud, insistent. Found a cardboard box. Inside, a baby, red-faced from crying. Otherwise healthy, fed recently. A note written in shaky handwriting. The guard radioed for police immediately. By noon, the story was in the news. Abandoned baby found at State House. Photos of the building. Speculation. Who would leave a baby in such a place? 2 weeks later, Derek Riley's sister was reading the newspaper at breakfast. Saw the photograph of the baby. Her coffee cup froze halfway to her lips. She knew that face. That was her nephew. She called the police. Detectives went to Derek's house on Salisbury Road, found it empty. 5 dogs in the yard, barking, hungry, desperate. No sign of Derek Riley. His car was missing. The house looked like he'd left in a hurry. Detective Karen Walsh from Franklin PD took the case. She was in her mid-30s, sharp eyes, had worked missing persons for years. Something about this felt wrong from the start. She interviewed neighbors, Derek's family, his probation officer, Pastor Henderson. Henderson told her everything. Derek had come to his house beaten, scared, talked about Marcus Webb and Tommy Castellano. Left in the middle of the night, took Henderson's car. Henderson had filed a stolen vehicle report at 7 a.m. when he realized Derek was gone, but now he understood why. Walsh found Derek's journal in his bedroom, tucked under his mattress, read the entries, the prayers, the fear, the love for his son, the desperate hope that he could be better. Found the police report Derek had filed in September about being followed. Found witnesses who confirmed seeing a black sedan around Derek's house for months. Connected the dots. Walsh knew Derek Riley hadn't abandoned his son. He'd saved him. But where was Derek? And who wanted him gone? To be continued in Part 2. Derek Riley. The Disappearance True Crime Story. Part 2. Part 2. Justice delayed Franklin, New Hampshire, April 3, 1977. Pastor William Henderson woke at 6:30 a.m. to an empty house. Not unusual. His wife had already left for her nursing shift at the hospital. But something felt off. He walked to the living room. The blanket was folded on the couch, the pillows stacked neatly on top. Derek Riley was gone. Henderson's car keys were missing from the kitchen counter. On the table, a note in shaky handwriting. "I'm sorry. I have to protect him. I'll explain everything later. Thank you for everything. Derek." Henderson stood there, reading it twice. His stomach knotted. He knew what Derek had done. Gone back for his son. Couldn't wait until morning. Too scared, too desperate. God, please let him be okay. Henderson called the Franklin police immediately, reported his car stolen. Standard procedure. Explained that Derek Riley had borrowed it without permission, but that Henderson wasn't pressing charges. He needed police to understand. Derek was in danger. The dispatcher took the information, said someone would follow up. Henderson paced his living room for 30 minutes. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore. He called a neighbor, borrowed their car, and drove to Derek's house on Salisbury Road. He arrived at 7:15 a.m. The house looked normal, quiet. His Buick was parked in the driveway. Henderson felt a wave of relief. Derek had come back. Maybe he just needed to check on his son. Maybe. He knocked on the door. No answer. Knocked again. Louder. The dogs inside started barking, frantic, desperate. Henderson tried the handle. Unlocked. He pushed the door open. "Derek?" The dogs rushed past him into the yard. 5 of them, stumbling over each other. Henderson could smell it immediately. Urine, feces. They'd been locked inside all night. "Derek?" He walked through the house. Kitchen empty. Living room empty. Upstairs, the crib was empty too. Blankets disheveled. But no baby, no Derek. Henderson's chest tightened. Something was very wrong. He went back downstairs, found Derek's journal on the coffee table, flipped through it, saw the last entry dated March 28th. "The black car is back. I see it everywhere. I'm scared. God, protect my son. That's all I ask. Protect him." Henderson sat down on the couch, hands shaking, called the police again. "This is Pastor William Henderson. I called earlier about my stolen car. I'm at Derek Riley's house now. He's gone. His son is gone. The dogs have been locked in here all night. Something's happened. You need to send someone." This time, they listened. The investigation begins. Detective Karen Walsh arrived at the Salisbury Roadhouse at 9 a.m. She was tall, mid-30s, red hair pulled back in a ponytail, had worked missing persons for 5 years, seen enough to know when something felt wrong. This felt wrong. She walked through the house with Henderson. He explained everything. Derek showing up beaten. The story about Marcus Webb and Tommy Castellano. The plan to go to the police in the morning. Derek disappearing in the night. "He took my car," Henderson said. "I found it in his driveway, but Derek and his son are both gone." Walsh made notes. "Tell me about these men, Webb and Castellano." Derek said they used to work together. Drug distribution. They thought Derek had talked to police, threatened him, threatened his family. "Derek filed a report about being followed last September," Walsh said. She'd already pulled it before coming here. "Described a black sedan. Officers at the time thought he was paranoid. He wasn't paranoid, he was scared. Walsh found Derek's journal, read the entries, saw the progression, hope at the beginning after his baptism, then fear creeping in. August. Someone's watching. October. The car followed me again. March. I'm scared. She bagged it as evidence. At 11:30 a.m., Walsh got a call from Massachusetts State Police. They'd found a baby abandoned at the State House in Boston that morning. Male, approximately 9 months old. Healthy. No identification. Just a note. Please take care of him. Walsh's blood ran cold. When was he found? 6:45 a.m. Send me photos. The photos came through 15 minutes later. Walsh showed them to Henderson. Is this Derek's son? Henderson looked at the tiny face, started to cry. Yes, that's him. Walsh put an APB out on Derek Riley immediately. Missing person. Last seen April 2nd. Possible abduction. Possible foul play. She drove to Boston herself, examined the scene. The stairwell where the baby was found, the cardboard box. Ordinary, could have come from anywhere. The note, handwriting shaky, consistent with someone under extreme stress. But no Derek. Walsh returned to Franklin, started interviewing people, neighbors, Derek's family, his probation officer. Everyone said the same thing. Derek was trying to turn his life around, going to church, taking care of his son, working hard, quiet, kept to himself, not the profile of someone who'd abandon a child. On April 5th, Derek's sister officially identified her nephew to Child Services, started the process to gain custody. She was devastated, kept asking, "Where's my brother? What happened to him?" Nobody knew. The interrogation, April 6th, 1977. Walsh brought in Marcus Webb and Tommy Castellano for questioning. They came voluntarily. Walsh didn't have enough for an arrest warrant yet, just wanted to talk. Marcus showed up with an attorney, expensive suit, knew his rights. Walsh sat across from them in the interrogation room. Gray walls, metal table. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. She laid out what she knew. Derek Riley is missing. His 9-month-old son was found abandoned in Boston. Multiple witnesses report Derek had been followed for months by a black sedan. Derek told Pastor Henderson you two visited him on April 2nd, assaulted him, threatened him. Marcus's attorney spoke first. My client denies any involvement in Mr. Riley's disappearance. He did have a conversation with Mr. Riley on April 2nd, but it was amicable. Business matters. No threats. No assault. Walsh looked at Marcus. Business matters? What business? You both have records for drug distribution. Past mistakes, Marcus said calmly. We've moved on. Derek Riley was beaten. The pastor saw his injuries. We didn't touch him. Maybe he got into a fight with someone else. Maybe he injured himself and made up a story. Walsh turned to Tommy. He'd come without a lawyer, sitting with his arms crossed, leg bouncing under the table. What about you, Tommy? You want to tell me what happened? We talked to Derek. That's it. About old times. We heard he was doing well, wanted to reconnect. He seemed nervous, but we didn't think anything of it. We left. That's all. Witnesses saw your car outside his house for months. We were in the area sometimes. It's a small town. Did you threaten him? No. Did you threaten his family? No. Walsh leaned forward. Here's what I think. Derek Riley knew something that made you nervous. Made you both nervous. So you decided to silence him. You assaulted him. Threatened his family. He got scared, ran to Boston, left his son somewhere safe, and then you found him and killed him. Marcus's attorney stood up. Detective, unless you have evidence, we're done here. Walsh didn't have evidence. No body, no witnesses to a murder, just Henderson's testimony about the assault. But that was Derek's word through Henderson. Not enough. She had to let them go, but she put surveillance on both of them, had officers watching their houses, tracking their movements. For 2 weeks, nothing happened. Marcus and Tommy went to work, came home, normal routines. Then, on April 20th, Walsh got a call from a detective in Portland, Maine. Marcus Webb had left the state, moved there, rented an apartment. Tommy Castellano moved to Worcester, Massachusetts. Both left Franklin within days of each other. Walsh tried to stop them, filed for an injunction, argued they were suspects in an active investigation. But her captain shut her down. "We don't have enough. We can't hold them here without charges." Marcus and Tommy were gone, and Derek Riley's case went cold. 26 years of silence. The years passed slowly for some, quickly for others. Derek's sister gained custody of his son, legally adopted him when it became clear Derek wasn't coming back. She named him Brandon, raised him in Concord, told him the truth when he turned 13. "Your father didn't abandon you. He saved you, and he was murdered for it." Brandon grew up angry, at the men who killed his father, at the police who couldn't catch them, at God for letting it happen. Pastor Henderson continued serving at Franklin Baptist Church. Every Sunday he prayed for Derek Riley, for justice, for peace. On the wall of his office he kept a newspaper clipping from April 1977. His interview with the local paper, "I know what I saw. Derek Riley was murdered. Those men took him. Justice will come." People in town thought he was obsessed, couldn't let it go. But Henderson didn't care. He'd made a promise to Derek, to help him. He'd failed. The least he could do was remember. Detective Karen Walsh worked the case for 3 more years, followed every lead, interviewed dozens of people, searched lakes and forests. Nothing. In 1980, she moved to the state police, worked other cases, but Derek Riley stayed with her, the one that got away. She retired in 1998. On her last day, she handed Derek's case file to a younger detective named James Ortega, 31 years old, sharp, hungry. "If you ever get a break on this," Walsh said, tapping the file, "call me. I don't care if I'm 90. I want to know." Ortega promised. The file sat on his desk for 5 years. Cold, forgotten, until November 2003. MCY, Cedar Junction, November 2003. Tommy Castellano sat in his cell at Massachusetts Correctional Institution, Cedar Junction. 55 years old, gray hair, thin, years of hard living etched into his face. He was serving 15 years for aggravated assault and armed robbery. Third strike, attacked a convenience store clerk in Worcester back in 2001, beat him badly, took $300, got caught 2 blocks away. The judge threw the book at him. Tommy had been in and out of prison his whole adult life. Knew how to survive, kept his head down, did his time, never thought much about it. But something changed in November 2003. The prison chaplain, Father Miguel Rodriguez, ran a weekly Bible study. Tommy had ignored it for 2 years, thought it was for weak men who couldn't handle their guilt. Then, one Tuesday, Tommy had nothing else to do. Rec time was canceled. Lockdown due to a fight. He wandered into the chapel just to kill time. Father Rodriguez was reading from Luke, the parable of the prodigal son, about a man who left home, wasted everything, and came back expecting nothing. And his father welcomed him anyway, celebrated his return. Something about that story stuck in Tommy's chest. He couldn't shake it. He started going to the Bible study every week. At first, cynically, then seriously. He read the Bible in his cell at night. The same passages Derek Riley had read in 1976. The same words, Psalm 23, John 3:16, Romans 8:1. There is therefore now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. No condemnation. Tommy wanted to believe that, but every night he saw Derek Riley's face, heard his last words, God forgive you and forgive me. 26 years of carrying that. In January 2004, Tommy requested a private meeting with Father Rodriguez. They sat in a small room off the chapel, gray walls, crucifix on the wall. Tommy's hands shook as he spoke. Father, I need to confess something, not for the priest's privilege, for real, on record. I'm listening. I killed a man, 1977, him and another guy, Marcus Webb. The man's name was Derek Riley. He had a baby, 9 months old. We took him from a lake, killed him, dumped his body. Father Rodriguez didn't flinch. He'd heard worse. Why are you telling me this? Because I can't die carrying it. I've been reading the Bible, trying to understand, and I keep seeing his face. He prayed for us before we killed him, prayed for us. I don't understand that kind of, I don't know, love, forgiveness. I don't understand it, but I want it. I want what he had. God forgives all who repent, but I need to make it right. His family deserves to know what happened. His son, he's a man now. He deserves answers. Father Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. You understand what you're saying? If you confess to murder, you'll spend the rest of your life in prison. I'm already in prison. I've been in prison since 1977. Just took me 26 years to realize it. What about Marcus Webb? He deserves justice, too. He pulled the trigger. But I was there. I helped. I'm guilty. Father Rodriguez called the prison administration, arranged for Tommy to speak with authorities. Detective James Ortega got the call on a Friday afternoon, February 13th, 2004. Detective Ortega, this is Father Rodriguez at Cedar Junction. I have an inmate who wants to confess to a 1977 murder in your jurisdiction. Derek Riley. Does that name mean anything to you? Ortega felt his heart skip. He grabbed the file from his desk, the one Walsh had given him years ago. Yeah, it means something. The confession. Detective Ortega drove to Cedar Junction the next morning, brought a recording device, a witness, did everything by the book. Tommy Castellano sat across from him in an interview room. Gray walls, metal table, same setup as 26 years earlier in Franklin. Different state, different detective, same story. Ortega hit record. Mr. Castellano, you've waived your right to an attorney. You understand you're speaking voluntarily? Yes. Tell me about Derek Riley. Tommy took a breath, and he told the truth. All of it. The drug business, the raids in 1976 to 77, the suspicion that Derek had cooperated, the decision to scare him, April 2nd, confronting him at his house, the assault, the threats. We told him to leave town, told him accidents could happen to his family if he didn't. We left him on the side of Route 3. Thought that would be enough. But it wasn't. No, he went to his pastor, Pastor Henderson. We found out the next morning. Someone saw Derek's car at Henderson's house. We panicked, thought he was going to the police, so we went there. Early, around 7 a.m. What happened? Tommy's voice got quieter. Derek was inside. Pastor opened the door. We told him we needed to talk to Derek. Pastor refused. Derek came out on his own, said he'd go with us if we left the pastor alone. Where did you take him? We drove around, tried to figure out what to do. Marcus wanted to kill him right then. I wanted to scare him more. We argued, finally decided to take him somewhere remote, make our point, which was that he needed to disappear For good. You found out he'd left his son at the State House. Yeah, he told us. Said the baby was somewhere we couldn't touch him. That made Marcus angrier. Said Derek had made this worse, made it personal. Where did you go? Lake Winnipesaukee. We knew Derek used to go there. Thought maybe he'd go back. We were right. Found him at the old dock. Just sitting there, reading a Bible. Ortega made notes. What time was this? Maybe 10 a.m. Sun was up. Pretty morning. What happened? Tommy looked down at his hands. We got out of the car, walked over. Derek saw us. Didn't run, didn't fight. Just stood up, said, God forgive you and forgive me. Those were his last words. Who killed him? Marcus shot him. Twice. Chest. Derek went down. We put his body in the trunk, waited until dark, took him out on a boat, weighted him down, dropped him in the water. Deep part, near the center. Where exactly? Tommy gave coordinates, described landmarks, drew a map. He'd remembered it for 26 years, every detail. Why didn't you come forward sooner? Fear, guilt, pride, take your pick, but mostly fear. I thought if I stayed quiet it would go away. It didn't. It got worse. Every year, every night, I kept seeing his face. What changed? I found Jesus, same one Derek found, started reading the Bible, realized I couldn't die carrying this. His son deserves to know what happened, deserves to bury his father. Ortega finished the interview 3 hours later. Tommy signed the confession, every page. Ortega walked out of the prison with the file under his arm, got in his car, sat there for a moment. Then he called Karen Walsh. Karen. It's James Ortega. Ortega? Been a while. How are you? I'm good. Listen, I need to tell you something. Derek Riley. We got a confession. Silence on the line. Then, what? Tommy Castellano. He confessed. All of it. He told us where the body is. Walsh started crying. Ortega heard it through the phone. 26 years of waiting. When can we search? Soon. I'll keep you posted. James, thank you. Don't thank me yet. We still have to find him. The Search March 2005. The New Hampshire State Police dive team assembled at Lake Winnipesaukee. Boats, sonar equipment, divers in dry suits. Ortega coordinated the search, used Tommy's coordinates, marked off a grid. The water was cold, barely above freezing, visibility low. The divers went down in shifts. 2 days of searching, nothing. Ortega started to worry. Maybe Tommy's memory was wrong. Maybe 26 years had distorted the details. Maybe, on the 3rd day, a diver surfaced, gave a thumbs up. They'd found something. The dive team brought up a large canvas bag, waterlogged, heavy, rocks tied to it. They laid it on the deck of the police boat carefully. Ortega opened it. Remains, mostly bones. Cloth fragments, looked like jeans, a shirt, and a right femur with an old fracture visible. Derek Riley's hunting accident. The scar on his leg. They'd found him. Closure and arrest. The medical examiner confirmed the identity through dental records and the healed fracture. Derek Riley. Cause of death: 2 gunshot wounds to the chest, bullets still lodged in the ribs. Ortega called Walsh. She drove up from her home in Portsmouth. 64 years old, gray-haired but still sharp. Stood at the lake as they brought the body to shore. We got him, Ortega said quietly. We finally got him. Walsh nodded, couldn't speak. Just watched as they loaded the remains into the medical examiner's van. Next came Marcus Webb. He was living in Portland, Maine. 58 years old, worked at a warehouse, diabetic, lived alone in a small apartment, divorced twice, no kids. On May 12, 2005, police knocked on his door at 6 a.m. Ortega was there. Walsh, 2. Maine State Police, warrant for arrest. Marcus opened the door in his bathrobe, looked at the badges, looked at their faces. That bastard Tommy talked, didn't he? Marcus Webb, you're under arrest for the murder of Derek Riley. Marcus didn't fight, just stood there as they cuffed him. I knew this would happen eventually, knew he couldn't keep his mouth shut. You have the right to remain silent. Yeah, I know my rights. I've heard them before. They took him to New Hampshire, booked him. He refused to talk without a lawyer. His attorney, a public defender named Patricia Vance, advised him to take a deal, plead guilty, show remorse. Marcus refused. I'm not admitting to anything. Make them prove it. They went to trial. The trial, February 2006, Grafton County Superior Court. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The prosecution's case was solid. Tommy Castellano testified, described everything, where they went, what they did, how Marcus pulled the trigger. I was there, I helped, but Marcus killed him. Marcus's attorney tried to discredit Tommy. You're a convicted felon, a violent criminal. You're testifying to reduce your own sentence. I'm testifying because it's the truth. I've been carrying this for 28 years. I don't care about my sentence. I just want Derek Riley's family to have answers. The defense had nothing. No alibi, no alternative explanation, just attacks on Tommy's credibility. Then the prosecution called Pastor William Henderson. He walked into the courtroom slowly. 70 years old now, used a cane, walked to the witness stand, placed his hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth. The prosecutor stood. Pastor Henderson, can you describe what happened on the morning of April 3rd, 1977? Henderson took a breath. Derek Riley came to my house around midnight on April 2nd. He'd been beaten. He told me 2 men, Marcus Webb and Tommy Castellano, had assaulted him, threatened his family. We prayed together, made a plan to go to the police in the morning. But Derek left during the night, took my car, went to get his son. What happened next? I went to his house around 7 a.m., found it empty, called the police. Later I learned what had happened. Marcus and Tommy had come to my door that morning around 7 o'clock. I was checking on Derek. They wanted him. I told them to leave. Derek came out, said he'd go with them if they left me alone. Did you see them take him? Yes, I watched through my window. They put him in a black sedan, drove away. That was the last time anyone saw Derek Riley alive. Why didn't you tell police this in 1977? I did. I gave a statement on April 3rd, told Detective Walsh everything. She interviewed Marcus and Tommy but couldn't arrest them without more evidence. They left the state. The case went cold. The prosecutor nodded. No further questions. Marcus's attorney stood. Pastor Henderson, you were 80 years old. 70. Sorry, 70. This happened 28 years ago. Are you certain about what you remember? Henderson looked at the defense attorney, then at Marcus. I am certain. I think about that morning every single day. I've prayed for Derek Riley every Sunday for 28 years. I know what I saw. But memories fade. Mine hasn't. I remember his face. I remember what he said. I remember watching him get in that car and knowing something terrible was going to happen. And it did. The defense had no response. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty. Murder in the first degree. Marcus Webb was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Tommy Castellano, for his cooperation, received 20 years added to his current sentence. He'd likely die in prison, but he seemed at peace with that. The funeral, July 15th, 2006. Derek Riley was finally laid to rest, 29 years after his death. The service was held at Franklin Baptist Church, the same church where Derek had been baptized, where he'd tried to become better. It was small, maybe 50 people. Derek's sister, her husband, Brandon, Derek's son, now 29 years old, the same age his father had been when he died. Pastor Henderson led the service. His voice was thin but steady. Derek Riley was a sinner, like all of us. He made mistakes. He sold drugs. He hurt people. He destroyed his marriages. But in the last year of his life, something changed. He found Christ. He tried to be a good father. And when the moment came, when he had to choose between his own life and his son's safety, he chose his son. That's not abandonment. That's love. Henderson paused, looked at Brandon in the front row. Derek died praying for his killers. That's the kind of man he became. Not perfect, but trying. And that's all God asks of us, to try. The service ended with a hymn. Amazing Grace, Derek's favorite. Henderson had found that detail in the journal. Afterward, Brandon approached Henderson. They hadn't spoken before. Brandon had grown up angry, bitter, didn't understand how his father could abandon him. But now, after hearing the truth in court, reading the journal, seeing the evidence, he understood. His father hadn't abandoned him. His father had saved him. "Thank you," Brandon said quietly, "for not giving up on him." Henderson's eyes filled. "Your father saved my life that morning. I owed him the truth. I wish I'd known him. He loved you. That's what matters. He died protecting you." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Brandon pulled out a letter from his pocket. "This came 2 weeks ago, from Tommy Castellano. I haven't opened it. Don't know if I should. That's your choice. Did he really change? Or is he just trying to make himself feel better?" Henderson thought about that. "I think both can be true. People change. I did. Your father did. Maybe Tommy did too. That doesn't erase what he did, but it might explain why he finally told the truth." Brandon nodded, pocketed the letter. "Maybe someday." The letter. Brandon waited 3 months before opening Tommy's letter. He couldn't bring himself to do it sooner. Too much anger, too much grief. But in October 2006, sitting in his apartment in Concord, he finally opened the envelope. The handwriting was shaky, pencil on prison stationery. "Dear Brandon, I don't deserve your forgiveness. I don't ask for it. But I need to tell you what happened that morning. Your father didn't beg for his life. He didn't cry. He didn't try to run. He just stood there when we found him at the lake. He was reading a Bible. The same Bible I'm reading now. He said, 'God forgive you, and forgive me.' Those were his last words. I've lived 28 years hearing those words. I tried to drink them away, drug them away, ignore them away, lock them in a box and throw away the key. Nothing worked. Then in prison, I found the same Jesus your father found, started reading the same Bible, and I understood. He knew something I didn't. Real forgiveness, real redemption, real peace. Your father was a better man than me. At the end, when it mattered, he chose love over fear. He chose to protect you. He chose to forgive us even as we killed him. I can't undo what I did. I took your father from you. I took your childhood. I robbed you of knowing him. I'm sorry. I'll spend the rest of my life sorry. But I want you to know, your father died protecting you. He died with your name on his lips. He died loving, not hating. That's the man your father was, at the end, when everything else was stripped away. I'm sorry." Thomas Castellano Brandon read the letter 3 times, then folded it carefully, put it in a drawer. He didn't write back, didn't visit Tommy in prison. Maybe he would someday, maybe not, but he kept the letter. because it was the truth, and his father deserved the truth to be remembered. Epilogue. Pastor William Henderson stood at his office window, December 2006. Snow falling outside, the church parking lot empty except for his old Buick. On the wall behind him, two newspaper clippings. The first from April 1977, Pastor claims missing man was murdered. The second from February 2006, justice after 29 years, Riley killers convicted. He'd kept them both. Reminders. Justice had come. Late. Impossibly late. But it had come. Derek Riley had been found, buried properly, his killers imprisoned. Henderson thought about that sometimes, about what justice meant. It didn't bring Derek back, didn't give Brandon the childhood he deserved, didn't erase 29 years of silence. But it meant something. It meant the truth mattered. It meant Derek's life mattered. It meant murder doesn't just disappear into the past. Henderson sat down at his desk, pulled out his Bible, the same one he'd been reading for 40 years, opened to Ecclesiastes. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to break down and a time to build up, a time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to speak. Tommy Castellano had finally spoken, 28 years late, but he'd spoken, and Derek Riley's son had finally heard the truth. Henderson closed his eyes, said a prayer for Derek, for Brandon, for Tommy, even for Marcus, because that's what Derek had done, prayed for his killers, even at the end. Henderson stood up, turned off the lamp, walked to the door, looked back at the office one more time. Tomorrow he'd preach again. Sunday service, same small congregation, same old hymns, same message. Redemption is possible. Change is possible, even for the worst of us. Derek Riley had believed that. Tommy Castellano had proven it, and Henderson would keep preaching it for as long as God gave him breath. He locked the door, walked to his car. The snow was falling harder now, the world quiet, peaceful. Derek Riley was at rest. Justice had come, and the door to redemption, the door was always open. The end.